The return of live sports begins in Utah with the NWSL Challenge Cup. North Carolina took on Portland this afternoon, and now the Chicago Red Stars and the Washington Spirit make their way onto the field at Zions Bank Stadium in Herriman, Utah. There are no fans at this tournament, so it's going to be a bit unique. And as the players make their way out, we'll join the public address announcer for the national anthem.
Please rise for the national anthem.
I've covered this league for 5 years. Lori has been around this league since its inception, and I don't think there has been a more striking singular image than Casey Short and Julie Ertz in that moment.
And Mike, when you see the emotions, you see how important it is, and have to applaud the league and the Players Association for their important conversations that they've had leading up to this and allowing to amplify the voices of the black players, all the players in this league, to be able to decide how they want to use their platform for this movement. And as a former player, I can't tell you how important it would be or is to feel supported by your league and your owners.
Casey Short among the starters for the Chicago Red Stars. And the national team stalwart at outside back. A look at the Red Stars starting formation. Short out on the left. Bianca St. George out of West Virginia starts on the right. Your eyes, however, on that front three, revamped.
Particularly number 5, Rachel Hill, acquired from the Orlando Pride. She'll look to mix it up with Kalia Watt and Yuki Nagasato up front. A lot of new faces, so we'll see how they mesh to be able to make up some of that scoring from the departure of Sam Kerr. And in particular, Yuki Nagasato, when it comes to her, what separates her is her technical ability. She can play balls in. Everything that she does is with precision, whether it's her final pass, her first touch, but she can also score goals. And 4 of her 13 goals have come against this Washington Spirit team. So look for her to make an impact to find the back of the net tonight.
And perhaps for Kalia Watt, she has never had a better partner to get her the ball than Nagasato. Meanwhile, for the Washington Spirit, it's a lineup led by Aubrey Bledsoe in goal, called into the national team in January. Andy Sullivan in midfield. Yokoyama has caught your eye.
Number 17, Kumi Yokoyama, brand new to this Washington Spirit team, playing out wide but likes to cut in. She's deceptive with her play, and I imagine she's going to start to link up, provide some of those assists for Ashley Hatch, which has been missing for this Washington Spirit team. It also allowed number 23, Tori Huster, to be able to occupy that wide space and get forward.
Players making their way onto the field at Zions Bank Stadium in Herriman, Utah. The death of George Floyd, a black man killed in police custody, has sparked widespread outrage and social unrest, reigniting the conversation around policing and racism in the United States. And as sports resume after the COVID-19 shutdown, athletes are using their platform to protest racial injustice, including those in the National Women's Soccer League. Back now to the public address announcer.
Thank you.
46 seconds, 8 minutes, 40 seconds listed on the clock. And now we play. Chicago Red Stars, Washington Spirit, their long-awaited start to the 2020 season comes in the Challenge Cup in Utah. First touch in a Red Stars uniform for Kalia Watt. Slips ahead. Laid off, Watt trying to sneak through, and now the shot toward the post by DiBernardo. That is a fine start for Chicago Red Stars.
And Chicago Red Stars already looking to pounce on goal. Kalia Watt getting into the mix early on, cutting inside, allowing for midfielders for Chicago Red Stars to make runs deep out of that midfield, causing some issues early on.
Aubrey Bledsoe looks on. DiBernardo to take a corner for Chicago. We'll try once more. Is there a player? We saw Lindsey Herriman earlier today, but Ertz streaking toward that near post, who's more dangerous on set piece.
One of the most dangerous in the world, and one that Rory Dames, Washington Spirit coach, said that he was worried about coming into this game.
DiBernardo comes all the way out towards St. George.
And Mike, to your point, coming into this game, Richie Burke, the Washington Spirit coach, wasn't entirely sure how Chicago was going to line up, what their new tactics were going to look like, how are they going to play with the departure of Sam Kerr, but he knew he wanted to be mindful on the set pieces from the Chicago Red Stars with the likes of Julie Ertz and his team. So they're not going to double team her, but look to do a bit of individual and zone marking against her, keep her out of the danger zone.
Short kept it for a moment. Now out to Tori Huster. This will run all the way out. Marissa Pilla is our embedded reporter throughout the tournament and has more on a new name on the back of Morgan Bryan's jersey.
Starting today, two-time World Cup champ and Chicago midfielder Morgan Bryan will now be known as Morgan Gautreau on the field. The change in name reflects her married name, and I was told she kept the change secret in order to surprise her husband, Fabrice, who is watching at home.
We just broke some serious news, Marissa.
Heard it here first.
Congratulations to the happy couple. Huster drives it away, and a touch there from Sarah Gordon. Was that lost? Yes. Lavelle able to slip it forward, and now the chase back by Zoe Morse. Bounce is too short. Lori, it's kind of interesting. You would think Chicago, having been a finalist last year, would be leading the charge to try and win this tournament every single game. And yet they've been a little more vocal about using these moments early on to develop younger players, while Washington is taking the exact opposite approach, as Ashley Hatch pushes on for the Spirit. Yokiyama.
Mike, well, that's what's interesting and unique about this tournament, is that each team can approach it differently depending on their needs and what they're looking for in the immediate term, but also in the future. And one thing that Rory Dames did talk about was, hey, they need to revamp their team. They might go back to pre-Kerr days in terms of keeping possession, their style of play, building through the attack in terms of more numbers getting forward. Prior with Kerr, they knew they could transition quickly, look to spring players in behind early and often. Now they're going to have to allow for more players to get involved into the attack, build through the midfield.
Well, Sky Blue knew it, and then Chicago knew it. Sam Kerr is a human cheat code that Chicago no longer has in its arsenal. Attack on here for Washington.
What I think is interesting about that, though, Mike, is a lot of times when you have a departure of the type of caliber of player that Sam Kerr is, a lot of players start to raise their level. And the question is, who's that going to be? We've already talked about Watt. We've talked about Rachel Hill being acquired. Tough challenge here. St. George's getting stuck in, making her presence known early.
Awkward landing for Ashley Sanchez, the 4th overall pick in the 2020 draft.
But Mike, on the flip side of that, you see Washington, and Richie Burke, the Washington Spirit head coach, has a different philosophy coming into this tournament. They made a lot of headway last year in terms of how they wanted to play, the principles of play, in terms of possessing out of the back, 600 passes, 60% possession throughout each game.
Lofty.
Absolutely, but he wants to come in here and make a statement. He feels like the next aspect of their team development is mentality to win. And so they're coming in here to look to win every game, might not play every rookie that they drafted.
Hatch seems to disagree. It's with Chicago. Rory Dames manages this Chicago Red Stars team, been there from the very beginning. Dames has been coaching youth soccer in Chicago for over 2 decades, the Eclipse Club. And there's a fair number of players that end up playing professionally for the Red Stars that have gone through that system.
And it goes back to what we were talking about in terms of building through draft picks. He knows the players around the Illinois area very well, knows what they can bring, helps develop them at a young age.
Well won by Lavelle, and now slips it ahead. Hatch sneaking through. Excellent save. Turned aside by Nair. The follow-up put in. Washington Spirit grab the opening goal. And a big one for her, too.
And I don't think we've seen a better start to the Washington Spirit game in the last few years. This is remarkable. We know Rose Lavelle and her abilities coming out of the midfield. Question marks around Ashley Hatch coming into this game and whether or not she can score goals, but she can get past with her speed and her pace. She does that, draws the defenders, forces a big-time save for Nair, and then it's Rose Lavelle that fires this one home into the upper corner. Fantastic start, exactly what you want when you're trying to build that winning culture, that winning mentality for your club.
Rose Lavelle's domestic career has been certainly shortened through 3 years. International duty, a big role, but also a handful of injuries as well. She's only scored 3 goals in regular season play in the league, and she pops into the Challenge Cup brimming with confidence, carrying over from last year, off and running.
She's one of those players that really benefited from the 2019 World Cup, giving her confidence, her ability to get on the ball at the biggest stage, was able to score goals, be a huge impact player. And you said it, Mike. I mean, she's been riddled with some injuries, hasn't been able to play consistently. Richie Burke said coming into this tournament, she's been unbelievable, just wants to be on the pitch as much as possible, and he's going to need to calm her down, make sure that they manage her minutes.
There's a great article in Sports Illustrated back in March, how Rose Lavelle found her joy. Looked pretty joyous a few minutes ago. Of note tonight, no Danielle Colaprico, no Tierna Davidson. So a handful of changes perhaps in midfield, certainly at center back. Gautreau.
Mike, the question will be for the Chicago team so early on. Obviously, a lot of these games, Rory Dames talked about how scripted they're going to be these first 3 matches leading into that 4th match, plus in going into the quarterfinals. In terms of managing minutes, how they play, their philosophy of play. But at the same time, you're missing a Sam Kerr that we've mentioned. So now, with all of these players, who can they rely on? Can they get other players into the mix? Start to send more numbers forward.
Ertz on to DiBernardo. Watt finds the space. Huster making it difficult. Watt dragged it all the way across, and a chance to serve now. Backs that out for a Chicago throw. That's a bit better.
And Watt already putting her stamp on the game. Loves the cut inside, which allows for Casey Short to be able to provide that width, get up and down the sideline, something that she does well. But also when Kalia Watt cuts inside, it allows the combination play, makes it difficult for opposing teams to defend.
Short floats too far for Rachel Hill. Hill, another of those newcomers. Actually spent the time off this offseason on a 3-month internship with U.S. Youth Soccer in Frisco. And then, of course, came to training camp, which was shut down shortly thereafter. DiBiase, another excellent ball through. Hatch this time. Nair, aggressive off her line.
Hatch has been so active already. She's making those little darting, penetrating runs, asking questions of Sarah Gordon and Zoe Morse of that back line for Chicago. Who's going to pick her up? Who's going to track her? Who's going to step to ball? Causing Chicago some issues right now.
That's sort of the question here for Washington, right? How do you better support Ashley Hatch moving forward? Big part of that is Rose Lavelle's form, not only in this tournament, but moving forward for the franchise. But in the past, it's been as Hatch goes, the Spirit go. That could still be the case, but it's going to need a little more help.
And we're seeing that help. We're already seeing number 11, Jordan DiBiase, getting into the mix. Another year of maturity in this league, understanding of the grind and what it takes to be successful. You're seeing Andy Sullivan rise to the occasion. She's just going to float in front of that back line and really kind of dictate play. But all of that adds to the benefit of Ashley Hatch being more involved, more dangerous in the attack.
Acquired for Crystal Dunn, the former 2nd overall pick in the draft. 2 lines closing together for Washington and taken away by the Spirit. And they're off to the races again. Ashley Sanchez, the 21-year-old native of California. Sanchez still, and now able to play it over. Stuck behind Hatch, and there goes Nair, shielding it all the way out.
Good idea there by Ashley Sanchez to make that penetrating run, realizing where the space is and just take off. You want to see this from a rookie. First game in the NWSL, looking like she's a mature veteran. Just can't get enough, loses her balance, can't keep it on side, and Ashley Hatch is struggling to be able to pull her run just wide to be able to get a foot on that ball to make something of it.
Bounds over here. Caltrell. Take a little bit of getting used to. 13 in white, no longer being Brian. Only a quarter of an hour gone. We came into today going, how many goals are there going to be in the first half? Teams trying to figure each other out. Washington's going to be a lot of fun. It hasn't taken long to figure that out.
And when you start to see these players healthy, and again, the maturity and the mentality that they're trying to implore, what a fantastic start so far. We're seeing combination play, dynamic runs up top, defensive presence.
Caltrell got it out to Watt. Clips toward the back post. Into DiBernardo, couldn't control it on the first touch. Sanchez provides pressure. DiBernardo driving across, and Watt rose up to meet it. Steers it wide.
That's something the Washington Spirit needs to be mindful of. Kumi Yokoyama playing in her first game, making sure that she tracks those runners. Kalia Watt wide open on that back post. It's the little details, regardless if you're considering this as a preseason match. So it's little details that can make or break these games. A lot of the teams being so close in talent.
And both being entirely untested.
Like, I think one of the interesting things, speaking to a lot of these coaches this past week, was when we were asking, what's it going to look like coming into this tournament? And they're like, you know just as well as we do. We haven't played college teams. We've been playing 11v11 against ourselves. I have no clue what's going to happen.
One coach told us, ask me after the first game, I'll tell you. Lavelle, who's been pulling strings thus far. This is the Rose Lavelle that Washington Spirit fans have been clamoring for, and that U.S. national team fans have seen over the last handful of years.
And this is just the beginning, it feels like. Her ceiling is so high. And if she can stay healthy, it lights out for the future for her with this Washington Spirit club, but also the women's national team. A real true number 10 attacking midfield can change the course of a game.
.45 caps, a dozen goals, 7 more assists. Stop pushing forward. 4th overall pick a year ago. Eddie Radwanski, the coach at Clemson, just said an out-and-out winner. Uncorks a long throw. Huster now for the Spirit. 9 wins, 8 losses, 7 draws last year. Only 4 points out of playoff position. They sought to reinvent themselves, figure out their new DNA. Lost for a moment.
And this is good by the Washington Spirit, just their calmness on the ball, their willingness to possess out of the back. Got them in trouble a few times last year.
DiBiase trying to get it away from Gordon. DiBiase took it back. Yokoyama, team two combined.
I like this combination between DiBiase and Yokoyama. Yokoyama pinching into the midfield.
Yokoyama with a drive.
And it's allowing DiBiase to be able to get wide, and we're already starting to see some of that fluidity in this midfield. Roosevelt popping back to get the ball off the back line. And as I was mentioning a second ago, their willingness to play out of the back, it did get them in trouble last year a bit, putting themselves in dangerous positions, playing out of the back with Bledsoe. At the same time, they continue to keep harping on it. And that's how they want to play, how they want to build as a team. It's proven to continue to be successful, at least in this game so far in this first 20 minutes.
You're harping on it because we know the coaching staff has been harping on it. 20 minutes in, Lavelle the goal scorer for Washington Spirit.
I can't hear the announcers anymore.
Yokoyama. That'll run all the way out. Let's go down to the sideline. Chat with Marissa Pilla.
I overheard Chicago head coach Rory Daines tell outside back Casey Short, bring yourself into the game. I spoke with assistant coach Scott Parkinson, and he says Chicago wants to see Casey Short get on the ball in space more and be able to create more of a tempo on the ball. She needs to be a little more relaxed playing out of the back.
Thanks, Marissa. And that makes a lot of sense. Casey Short's one of the best in this league in terms of getting forward, providing that width for Chicago. But one thing that's going to have to happen, though, for Chicago is to stay on the ball a bit more, allowing for Casey Short to get higher up the field. They need to condense their lines, stay compact a bit more often, so Casey Short is able to advance up the field quicker and get more involved in the play.
High passing Gautreau all the way to the back. Gordon. Morse. Third round pick. Does have experience in the youth national team with, among others, Tierna Davidson. She's replacing tonight. That's bobbled a bit by Bledsoe. She hangs on. This could be a big tournament for Aubrey Bledsoe, couldn't it?
Well, she had a fantastic year last year, and then to build off of that, she's excellent with her feet. She likes to play out of the back. I think it's going to be, though, a balance of whether or not she's going to alleviate pressure like we just see her now, or play out of the back and help build with the way that this Washington Spirit wants to play. But there's no doubt she's one of the best shot stoppers in this league, can keep her team in games, and if not win games for Washington Spirit.
Nielsen playing it long. Hatch unleashed again. Yokoyama making that darting run now. Yokoyama lays it back. Ball slides around and away for DiBiase.
Well done by Morgan Gautreau to be able to keep that out of any sort of danger and prevent that from being a goal-scoring chance.
And now Watt the other way. Dangerous one-on-one. There she goes, and Nielsen up to the task.
Watt pulling herself wide and then looking to see if she can cut inside, but then quickly turn Nielsen inside out. Nielsen doing a good job of holding her feet. Making the tackle there at the end. I like how active Kealia Watt has already been, though. Controlling that left-hand side, staying wide, pinching in at different times. Really asking questions of that back line and of Sam Staub and Tori Huster.
Bernardo. Lavelle. Nielsen again, the pride of Lincoln, Nebraska. Played at North Carolina for Anson Dorrance, captained that side. Fifth year in the league. Pressed last year for Washington. Hill has Huster on skates. Ertz. Caltrell played it forward. Huster skied it. Pressure there from short. Allows Hill onto the ball again. Big cut inside, and now Lavelle takes over.
Mike, the biggest difference between these two teams right now in the first 26 minutes is Ashley Hatch is always on the shoulder of those center backs for the Chicago Red Stars, always looking to make penetrating runs, see if she can penetrate quickly and open up this game. And right now, Chicago Red Stars don't have that. They have Yuki Nagasato playing as the number 9 position, always checking back to the ball, and then relying on Watt and Hill to provide the width and run at players, but it's too predictable. Not enough combination play to break down Washington Spirit's defense.
On to the 28th minute. Washington Spirit, 11 new players, 7 rookies, unfazed, begin their run in the NWSL Challenge Cup.
And Mike, when you're looking at this roster for the Washington Spirit, you'll see a number of changes. You'll see a number of changes, a number of new names on the roster that thinks like they've done an overhaul, but in reality, they know exactly how they want to play, and they're constantly looking for those players that are going to fill that mold. And so while they did have some turnover, got rid of some international players that were effective last year, they continue to look to build. They've, much like the Chicago Red Stars, are building through draft picks.
Might be counterintuitive to say, though, that a bunch of new players could maybe breathe life into what's a shortened preseason. There's certainly difficulty in it. DiBiase found Lavelle. It seems Washington has done just that. Slip ball through. No problem there for Chicago as Ertz anchoring that midfield. Houston. DiBiase somehow snuck that through. And now the referee brings play back. Offside flag up.
And right now, Chicago Red Stars just having a difficult time to get any sort of pressure on the ball. Washington Spirit having the way with possession, finding a little combination play, the fluidity in the midfield, those three, and then also DiBiase making little runs to combine with Ashley Hatch has been a difference maker, really putting the Chicago Red Stars under some pressure once they get in and around the box.
Grady sneaking back on defense. Going one-on-one. Watt, who switched off to the right-hand side, wins a corner for the Red Stars. Another corner for Chicago. In the past, they've proven so dangerous. Bernardo skims off of short. Morse. Driven to Kaylee Watt. Herself gets service through. And of note, every game in this tournament will feature hydration breaks, regardless of the temperature at the exact moment. And in this first half, we've reached it now as you're watching the NWSL on CBS Sports. How about the goal for Washington? Rose Lavelle slipping it through. Magnificent to follow this up.
Well, that's what you want, is Rose Lavelle running out of the midfield with the ball. And then Ashley Hatch getting back to her 2017 Rookie of the Year caliber of play. It's a penetrating run, forces the Chicago Red Stars to decide who's going to pick her up. Good look, but even better save by Alyssa Nair. But it's the understanding and opportunistic ability of Rose Lavelle to follow that one up and just fire it in home. Knows it won't be saved by Alyssa Nair. She puts that one in the top corner.
Let's take a look at the secret virtual watch party powered by Google Meet. They're pretty excited out in Washington. You know these fans well, Lori.
I do. Seems like ages ago.
They don't view it that way, I think.
If they saw me play these days, they might.
What do you make out of Chicago at this point? I think naturally everyone thinks 2019 finalist Rory Dames a little slower to heap praise. What have you made out of the opening half hour?
Well, this is a team exactly what Rory Dames has talked about. It's a developing team, changing their style of play, looking to be a little bit more possession-oriented, can't look to find penetrating passes as quickly as they used to. So now can they build up? And that's going to take time. You haven't played that way in a few years. Now you're getting back to switching the point, getting other players involved. What does a combination of player up top look like? And those were question marks. And Rory Dames knew that coming into this game. I think the only thing that you need to start to make adjustments with is making sure that back line for Chicago doesn't drop too quickly and allow for Hatch to find those spaces.
Washington ahead of Chicago, 1-0 in the NWSL Challenge Cup. Opening game for both sides from Herriman, Utah. An 8-team tournament. Orlando withdrew days before the tournament was set to begin after dealing with a reported outbreak of COVID-19. As a result, the schedule changed a bit. Orlando is scheduled to play tonight. As there is, of course, tremendous reward and also a hair of risk, of course, being the first professional team sport back in the United States. But so far, these first 2 games, they've been enjoyable, especially for North Carolina fans who got a late game winner against Portland. We'll take a look at the game winner of that one at halftime, but a lot of reasons to be excited about the next month.
And we knew coming into this game, and so did every team, that some of the play or is going to be like preseason, going to be some rustiness, not be able to find the rhythm right away. But right off the bat, all these teams coming in, competing, putting on a good show so far.
I think these players are just happy to be back on the field.
You can see the excitement and the nerves at the same time. But for a lot of these players, it's about once you get the first few passes in, calm yourself. They've done this a million times. I think what's unique is the rookies coming in, not playing in front of fans. Does that alleviate some of the nerves throughout this tournament? It allows them just to play, and we get a better idea of what they can bring to the stage.
You say get the first couple passes in, Richie Burke says, and then 598 to go. It's a corner here for Washington. And this settles, gets smashed into the air, stayed onside, bounces down, and the back pass means it has to be cleared away by Nair. Sanchez this time. Drop down toward DiBiase, but slowed down toward her path.
That's a more comfortable position for Yuki Nagasato. Seen her come back to the ball. Haven't called her name much in this first half so far. Playing higher up the field than she typically does. But a player that you want on the ball to be able to build up play.
Up the right-hand side goes Chicago. Not trying to work her way through initially. Short. There's room here. Short had to go with it. Lavelle fouled by Ertz.
Keep it going, Blue!
Nielsen for the Spirit. Washington, a former finalist as well, 2016. What a team that was for the Spirit. To recapture that magic. Bernardo. Well, the deflection works well for Chicago. And driven through. Watt driving into the penalty area. And while this gets into the net, it won't count. Offside flag was up. It's the initial ball through.
And Kalia Watt just can't keep herself on side. She needs to pull her run a bit wider, knowing that she can see the line, stay on side, because she had Tori Huster beat. to be able to take her on if she had an initial first touch.
Let's go down to Marissa Pilla for more.
About being aware of Chicago's forwards who were trying to pull Huster out of position to create space behind her. They want Washington to limit Chicago's attempts to create pockets of space behind their back line, which could ultimately leave Washington center backs vulnerable to 1v1 situations.
Lori, are you interested in getting into coaching? That's a no.
Well, that's exactly what Marissa is exactly right. I mean, coming back in, pulling those Tori Huster, Antigua McGrady out, exposing those two back, but that allows, you have to be able to, it goes back to what we were saying, keep possession, allow for those players to get involved into the attack.
In comes Lavelle. With creativity in that. Played that almost blind. Launched forward for Washington. If they can latch on here in midfield, could make something of it. It feels like Huster's natural position in this formation is 10 yards beyond the center backs. Feels like she exists further forward. Excellent ball through. How did this get through? Lavelle saved there. And the clearance takes a hefty deflection over toward short.
Rose Lavelle is going to want that one back. This entire first half, Washington Spirit making these runs out of the midfield from their midfielders deep. Chicago Red Stars aren't able to keep up with it. They'll read the play soon enough. Lavelle finds herself in a fantastic scoring position. Listenaire coming out, closing down the angle wonderfully.
Nagasato Inland knock it wide initially, and then Ertz is careening off a Spirit player. This is easy for Bledsoe.
Like that run out of the midfield from Rose Lavelle, and we've seen it a few times from DiBiase as well. That feels like the next level for the Washington Spirit. We didn't see that enough last year. We didn't see enough players getting into the attack and already the build up, but then the next level for them has been getting more players around the ball, combination play. Talked about Tori Huster being higher up the field. That's what allows this.
Here's your goal scorer. Rose Lavelle for Washington Spirit. Inside 10 minutes. Spirit side who only missed the playoffs by 4 points last year. Hatch giving chase. Ertz reverses and short seed. Lengthy diagonal. And Watt charges fearlessly into the penalty area. And Watt knocks it across. Falls, earns a second time. Out to Short, who chips it back. Out comes Bledsoe. Nearly a finishing touch on that from Hill.
We can see that Tori Huster is wanting to force Halia Watt down to the end line. Halia Watt noticing that, doing a good job of being able to cut that front foot for Tori Huster. Serve that ball inside.
Steps Ertz. Nagasato. Apple. Intelligent. In stepped McGrady. Cleanly so. That argument continues.
Much better build-up by the Chicago Red Stars, getting DiBernardo involved in between the lines, the midfield and back line for Washington Spirit. Getting on the half turn and then be able to find Nagasato to play that final pass. Something that we haven't seen much in this first half. So can they continue to find little spaces, little gaps in between the lines of the Washington Spirit?
Well, that was a big decision from Ekaterina Koroleva. Washington seconds away from taking a lead into the locker room at halftime. Maybe they can pump this forward, get one more chance. And it is halftime. One word for Washington. What stands out to you?
Dream start. If you're looking for mentality of winning ways, you saw that in this first half.
I'll take 2 words.
Or more, sentence.
Yeah, Rose Lavelle opens the scoring account for Washington Spirit in 2020. And it was 2020 vision that helped her do it. She stole the ball, she carried it forward, played it through, followed up. As the Spirit over Chicago in what one would term mildly surprising at the outset. Incredible images at the outset. Casey Short and the Red Stars trail at the break. We've got plenty coming up of the NWSL Challenge Cup presented by P&G and Secret. Thanks for joining us here for the NWSL Challenge Cup halftime report presented by Secret. Back in Herriman, Utah, in Zions Bank Stadium, halfway complete between Chicago and Washington, but 3/4 of the way through our opening doubleheader in this tournament. Earlier today on CBS, North Carolina Courage, twice defending champions, taking on Portland. And before the game, a touching moment as all 22 players took a knee to honor the Black Lives Matter movement, followed by 46 seconds shortly before kickoff to honor George Floyd. Move into game action. 4th minute, Lynn Williams picking up where she left off.
And from the opening minute, Lynn Williams is active, whether it's pulling out wide, creating space for herself, or looking in behind to cause trouble for that Portland Thorns defense. But then it'd be substitute Haley Mace. We talked about the midfield being important for both teams, and it's Dabinia, just a darting run to beat all the Portland Thorns defenders to this ball. It's Haley Mace's driven cross that allows her just to redirect this one into the back of the net.
First appearance and first assist for Mace in an NWSL competition. How about a first goal for Simone Charlie? 80th minute, Herriman off the crossbar, knocked in.
And just like the beating on the other side, it was Herriman for the Portland Thorns, making runs out of the midfield. We've seen her do this time and time again, but it's the opportunistic ability from Charlie to follow that one up.
And then in the 4th minute of stoppage time, this is so NWSL. Late game winners everywhere.
After all the chances that Lynn Williams wasn't able to put away in the first 90-plus minutes, she makes no mistakes about this one, but as Sam Mewis puts it on a platter.
How about Lynn Williams on elevation and elevating to the top of the table?
Also weird. You know, I think that a lot of us, like the first 20 minutes, we're just really excited to get out there. And, you know, I think we're getting the rust off a bit, but more just excited. And then the altitude kicks in and you're like, all right, let's settle down. Let's play our game. Let's try to keep the ball and actually try to string some passes together. But I think the first 20 minutes, you could see we were so excited. And I'm happy to get back out there and play again.
And everybody now looking up at North Carolina atop the standings, including Houston Dash and the home side, Utah Royals FC. They'll play Tuesday, 12:30 Eastern Time on CBS All Access. We have plenty more action coming up here. Chicago and Washington trying to pick up points in their opener in the preliminary round. We'll be right back with more of the NWSL Challenge Cup halftime report presented by Secret.
We're first and we're fierce. I'm pinching myself, and I couldn't have done it without the Utah Royals organization and the leadership of Deloy Hansen. The minute we got that bid, we knew we had the winning bid and host city because of all the facilities, but the detailed care down to rooms, accommodations, everything it came together so quickly, and I have to tell you, it was a unanimous vote from the owners to be here in Utah.
An event like this is fairly Olympic. But now that you see the smoothness, the dedication, the rhythm, I'm very proud of all our teams, very proud of the league. We're a league that represents American values, and we represent American progress and equality and profound equality. And I think the owners are in line with that, the players are, and this is a league that's in sync with each other.
We weren't intending to be the first ones back, but now that we are absolutely going to use the spotlight for important messages from our players to introduce people to this great sport and great athletes. And, you know, hopefully you're going to be watching for another 22 games, and we've got an exciting tournament ahead.
Into attacking territory, across, and a goal! North Carolina and Lynn Williams, the first victory of the NWSL Challenge Cup.
Well, if we get more like what we've seen so far, one would imagine you are going to stick around for the next 21 and a half games. Washington over Chicago at halftime in the NWSL Challenge Cup. Welcome back in, everybody. Mike Watts joined by Lori Lindsay. And, you know, it stood out to me, Deloy Hansen talks about sort of the Olympic feel of this. So for players who maybe haven't experienced that, that's certainly new. And Lisa Baird, we got a chance to talk to her leading into this. You can feel just how much it means to her to be able to turn around from becoming commissioner to dealing with the COVID-19 pandemic to putting this together. Lori, it's really remarkable, isn't it?
It has been, and we knew coming into this tournament that all the teams are going to approach it differently in terms of their needs, looking for the immediate needs of their team, but also in the future. But one thing that was reiterated across the board with all of the coaches was the need for a tournament like this, even when you're playing in a regular season, because the games mean something. You got to get into the quarterfinals, then you get into the knockout stages, and it raises the level across the board for all of the teams.
Yeah, the number of big games that you play in typically correlates with how much you improve as a player. We've heard that from coaches over the course of really the last week preparing for this. And, you know, so far we've seen star players give star performances, Lori.
And we're going to start to see some of these rookies step up as well, especially with the number of minutes. Typically, you wouldn't see with games meaning so much throughout the season as well in a regular season. Stuff difficult with only 3 subs for players to get on the field. 5 subs now, quick turnaround between games. We're going to see a lot more players getting minutes, and they're going to have to rise to the occasion because, as we mentioned, start to get to knockout stages, games mean more.
All right, well, we're at halftime here on CBS Sports as we continue with our halftime report. Incredible images worthy of a new competition and worthy of the moment in history. Spirit 1, Red Stars 0. More after this. The NWSL Challenge Cup presented by P&G and Secret on CBS Sports. Washington Spirit over the Chicago Red Stars, 1-0 as we head toward the second half. But before we do that, Lori, let's take a look at first half highlights. As the Spirit grabbed the lead inside 10 minutes in this affair, exactly, you called it a dream start. Ultimately, there were tears before that dream start for both sides. A moment of tremendous magnitude as the players and coaches coming together.
Helps develop them at a young age.
Well won by Lavelle, and now slips it ahead. Hatch sneaking. Let's take a look at our second effort at commentary, shall we? Hatch going through. Ultimately, it's Lavelle, right?
And it was a dream start. And the biggest difference I've seen with this Washington Spirit team in this game, coming off of that quality 2019 season, is the fluidity with those front five players, the runs that are coming out of the midfield, Ashley Hatch getting on the back shoulders of the center backs and just being dynamic in that final third. Kalia Watt doing a good job out wide. She is that true winger, deciding to cut in, take players on, trying to get on the edge of this one with her head. Couldn't connect though well with it.
And now on to the 42nd minutes. Lavelle again, but Nair up to the task this time.
And again, it's just those little darting runs. This is a midfielder, Rose Lavelle. We already see score her goal, but coming up, and she knows she's going to want that one back. That should have been in the back of the net, but again, fabulous start by Washington Spirit, getting everybody involved in this game.
And now, Lori, we're talking about how long do you play Rose Lavelle in game one when you have 3 more preliminary round games and you already know you'll play in a quarterfinal, you just don't know where you're going to be seated.
And that's the million-dollar question for all of these teams, managing their players, who can go, who can have a quick turnaround with games coming in quick succession. So, and that's the big question for Rosabelle. They want to keep her healthy. They want to make sure. We've already seen in this first half how dynamic and the quality of form that she's in currently. So I think we'll see her come off at least around the 60th minute, save her legs, give an opportunity for some of these players to help build this team from last year on the field.
And with such a condensed season, all eyes on making sure that player safety comes first, not only as it relates to the COVID-19 pandemic. 15 physicians were ultimately grouped together by the NWSL to help promote the best safety practices for the bubble, but also those injuries we've seen occurring overseas with a short run-up and a lot of condensed matches.
And that's the one thing coming into this tournament that all 8 coaches said.
On to the second half here. Washington and Chicago, 1-0 to the Spirit in the 46th after the first 10 by Rose Lavelle. How about this opportunity? How about a goal right at the outset in the second half? And Ashley Hatch, the BYU alum, steps up for the Spirit.
Well, we thought the first half was a dream start for the Washington Spirit. How about this second half? Fantastic run. You see Ashley Hatch realizing Alyssa Nair taking a little bit of a too calm of a touch here, just pounces on it, makes the most of it, fires in the back. There's the touch, can't get it out from underneath her. Ashley Hatch continues her run, just makes the most of it. You can see how excited this Washington Spirit team is. They've come here to win this tournament.
Same thing backwards.
And for Ashley Hatch, a player that we haven't seen her best form these past 2 seasons, trying to get back into her scoring ways, really making the most of this opportunity in this first game of the Challenge Cup.
Lavelle, there could be more here for the Spirit. Deflected over towards Sanchez. Hatch not nearly as quick to pressure Nair this time around. And this is where, for Chicago, the question reemerges. 41 goals last year, second in the league, but 18 were from Sam Kerr. Sam Kerr not here today. Who puts on the cape?
And we know that doesn't come from just one person. So that is what the challenge is going to be for the Chicago Red Stars, getting the right mix of players, who works best together, who can combine, who can be the most dangerous. No better opportunity than in this tournament to figure that out.
Held up by Ertz for the Red Stars. And sent into the corner. Watt. Short, now Ertz. To McGrady. Nearly stripped away by St. George. Watt picks her head up. Short overlaps into the corner. Huster backing in. Short has won a corner for Chicago.
And that's the position that Chicago wants Casey Short in. Getting to the end line, taking on, looking to see if she can serve crosses and forcing that back line for the Washington Spirit to come up with big plays.
Lifted through and somehow sneaks to Watt.
Mike, besides the offensive side for the Washington Spirit, and then able to create opportunities and chances on goal, defensively, you get the sense that this team is fighting for one another, throwing their body in front of crosses, not giving any little opportunities for Chicago to get a rhythm.
They've gotten this far before, and they make something more of it. Watt. St. George. DiBernardo. That does slip through. And Gautreau, with a new name on her back, pulling Chicago one closer. The former Morgan Bryan grabbed Chicago's first goal of the tournament.
Just like that, though, we see Chicago pouncing on Washington Spirit. It's this deflection and this run through Morgan Gautreau that allows her to stay on side and finish this one. That's a perfectly placed goal. Bledsoe does a good job of getting a hand on it, but can't keep it out. That's the importance of continuing to follow your runs, having those players coming out of the midfield. Fortunate mistake by Washington Spirit. Did not get a good bounce on that one, though.
St. George. The energy, and you can see it in St. George maybe in particular, a little bit higher from Chicago. Maybe a fuse lit in the locker room.
And even if you're looking to develop players, you still want to have that bite.
DiBernardo got it through this time. How about an opportunity? Lifted well over, and Kalia Watt continues to search for her first goal in Chicago after a tremendous run of form, particular in 2016 in Houston. One of the league's better goal scorers during her time with the Dash.
You talk about a player that wants to make a name for herself, wanted this trade, knew that she has a narrow window to make the women's national team, get back to her scoring ways, her top form, and feels this is the place to do it with the Chicago Red Stars already being so active.
DiBiase lays it back, and this lifted over. Lavelle the other way.
Well, if we weren't sure there's going to be goals in the first half, if we weren't sure there's going to be many goals in these first games, as most of these are like preseason games for these teams, we have in action. Rose Lavelle again getting herself in and around the box, slipping in, times her run perfectly, and just pops off the back line of the Chicago Red Stars, finds a little bit of space, but gets underneath that. Second opportunity of the game that she'll want back. Looked very different if she had put those 2 goals away.
Let's check in with Marissa.
I talked with Chicago assistant coach Scott Parkinson, and he said because Washington are playing in a defensive block, Chicago can't play into it. They want to put that block into crisis mode by continuing to play wide. He also said they asked their midfield trio to step it up in this second half, and they like the play that they're creating on the wings and to continue that forward into the second.
That plays right into the hands of Watt and what she's been able to do, provide that width. Something that we highlighted coming into this game. One of the true wingers in this league. She's causing some issues. Can they continue to find her? And what that allows to do is once you pull it out wide, then that opens up the space for those midfielders coming through.
Well, this more or less exactly what you're talking about. Ertz flipped that back in Watt's direction. Julie Ertz just continues to improve. Initially, of course, as center back into central midfield, and it's almost hard to imagine now her not in that role with the national team for Chicago, right?
She has it all. I mean, defensively, she can play make, she can score on set pieces, she can score in the run of play. I mean, what a vital role she plays for every team that she plays on for club and country.
Top line, most scouting reports, JJ. Short. Corner Chicago as they try and climb level. 10 minutes into the second half. Washington scored on an error by Alyssa Nair inside a minute in this half. And then Chicago pulled one back moments later. Ertz making that run in front. Is there room here? There's certainly the room. Can they make the most of it? And St. George, middle of defense, a little extra there to get away from Sanchez.
Chicago's back line needs to make sure they're not dropping too early. When they drop too early, it's forcing their midfield to have to track back so many yards. Can they continue to push the line, keep compact with their midfielders and their strikers? Won't be as much space for those midfielders for Chicago to have to cover.
Ertz plays it wide. And Watt now got her defender in the air, plays it toward the near post, and down goes Bledsoe to pull it in.
Watt's been doing all the right things in terms of the build-up, slicing and dicing, forcing the defenders for Washington Spirit to have to decide which way they're going to force her. But then it's just that final piece that's missing, whether it's the shot on goal or the decision to cross that goes too far. And that's to be expected coming into these games. But at the same time, when you're looking to score goals and you need to fill some big shoes, those are the ones you want to be able to put away.
Pressure perhaps will build a bit further now for Chicago. The logos in the background, Real Salt Lake, Real Monarchs, Rio Tinto Stadium, the traditional home of Utah Royals FC. Short drive away from Herriman in Sandy, Utah. Real Monarchs call this home, champions in the USL Championship a year ago. Goes to this NWSL Challenge Cup. Free kick for Chicago. Looks like a painful fall to ground for McGrady.
Tough challenge between these two. McGrady getting the worst of it.
Brady dealt with injuries last year. Just a lengthy stretch of time in the middle of the season. Ultimately only managed to play 6 times. The 7th overall pick last year. Part of what's a youth movement. I mean, there are a lot of 1st, 2nd, 3rd overall kind of picks that we're talking about on this Washington Spirit side.
Here's that challenge again, but this is Washington Spirit's first pick from the 2019 draft. Wasn't able to play, as you mentioned, an integral role last season, but already in this game, starting to get some of those pieces. Talked about Roosevelt being healthy, Tegan McGrady. These were players that they want to continue to have on the field because it's the way that they want to play. When you talk about the fluidity, getting players forward, creating numbers up situations, Tegan McGrady playing outside back is a vital part of that combination play.
Brady continues to get looked at. Played at Stanford, won a title there in 2017. Did play for the national team, won cap in April of 2018 against Mexico, but one of the players who really helped her along in her time at Stanford, and one would imagine that's continued over now, Andy Sullivan.
Add in the mix of Jordan DiBiase, and you have 3 players right there coming out of Stanford that understand each other, the quality of play.
Know how to win.
And this is the time when we're going to start to see some of these subs come in. Rory Dames alluded to the fact that he has it scripted. He knows who's coming in, exactly what time, at least for the first 3 games. Goes back to what we were talking about, the managing of minutes, managing of legs.
Hellstrom is up and about, among others, for Washington. Burke goes over to check on McGrady. Mentioned it a handful of times, but 5 subs being allowed in any choice of 3 intervals. As we found out in the English Premier League over the weekend, you can indeed make a quintuple sub. Is that correct verbiage? St. George maybe just a little gassed at this point. Short, laid it along. Bledsoe up with ease.
And Mike, one thing that I think we'll see during this tournament as well is formation changes, not only just personnel, but the way these teams play. There's a couple of teams coming in particular Washington would like to try what looks like to play in a 3-back, but didn't have enough time with the 3 weeks leading up to this tournament to be able to make overhaul changes. So bits and pieces here, not only will we see personnel changes throughout the games, but even potentially formation and what that looks like for each team. North Carolina, another one.
They're always tweaking the box. Watt. Sullivan helped to control that for Washington. DiBiase. And there's so many different tactical profiles in the collegiate game where most of these players make their way through. Within the league, a handful of fairly standard formations. How hard is it to make those changes? That's the discussion we've been having over these past few days with various coaches. Feist is coming on for Yokoyama. Yokoyama's debut for Washington concludes after nearly 64 minutes. And Dorian Bailey will make her way on as well. And Tegan McGrady, who picked up a knock moments ago and came off, replaced for Washington. Feist a goal, couple of assists. Product of Wake Forest. Dorian Bailey, the pride of North Carolina. Maggie Doherty Howard set to come on, and Rose Lavelle makes multiple impressive contributions, not the least of which the opening goal.
If you're a Washington Spirit fan, this is what you'd love to see. Ashley Hatch getting into the mix, but also Rose Lavelle in her performance tonight. Runs out of the midfield, staying healthy, able to manage her minutes. She's going to be an important part of this tournament, but also going forward. Imagine with this sub with Maggie Doherty Howard coming in. Sullivan potentially can move to the number 8 position higher up the field. Maggie Doherty Howard will sit in that number 6 role, just patrol the defense in front of that back line for Washington Spirit.
Lori, I don't think I'm off base here in saying this is the first time 4 subs have ever been made by the same team in an NWSL game. History in the making.
See it here first.
Doherty Howard, Feist, Bailey, and Hellstrom have come on for the Spirit. They change over a third of their lineup. Now that's a disparity.
surprised that we haven't seen more subs from Chicago. The way that Rory Dames was talking coming into this game, wanting to really manage the minutes, especially the first 3 games. Still plenty of time, but approaching the 70th minute mark, that's quite a few minutes for a lot of these players that are just playing inter-squad scrimmages. It's quite like a preseason game for all of these teams. Most minutes the majority of these players have played quite some time.
Beltro's got a goal for Chicago, knocks it wide. Watt lofting back post, looks dangerous. Ertz. Another sneaking ball. This one up the end line. Didn't reach Nagasato.
This is where it's important that if you're watching Spirit, already making 4 subs, getting players into the game really quickly, allowing them to get a rhythm. So you don't want to spend 20+ minutes just defending a Chicago Red Stars team and keeping them off the scoreboard. Can you get these players into the game, start getting them combining with each other, especially up top? Throughout this tournament, these subs are going to play a vital role, especially as we see some tired legs coming about more quickly in these games. And they continue to raise the level with them coming off the bench.
An injured player for Washington. See if we can't get a better look here at Hatch going down.
You don't know if it's the collision, if it's the fatigue. But all of those factors playing in elevation, limited time coming into this. And that's why it goes back to, Mike, what we have been talking about throughout this game, just managing minutes, managing the rhythms of the game as well. Because if you can't make subs, and there's going to be players that have to play 90 minutes throughout these games. So that's where experience comes in. Having players understand the rhythms of the game, slow it down when needed to keep possession, and then can you transition and push the pace when it's on.
Good to see Hatch up and about again. Ashley Hatch out of BYU. If there's anyone prepared to handle altitude, you'd argue Hatch for Washington and Vasconcelos for Chicago would fit the bill. Both BYU grads.
With Hatch's movement off the ball and the runs she's been making in behind the back line tonight, you would say she's adjusted.
Wind is picked up. Nightfall in Utah on day 1 of this month-long excursion. Watching the best women's soccer on the planet. The Washington Spirit lead Chicago 2-1 with under 20 minutes to play before stoppage time. Now Chicago will dip into their bench. Couple of changes waiting for the Red Stars, trying to make a late impact. St. George. Vasconcelos and Doniak await their moment. Short. Drives the diagonal, bounds back. St. George. Skipped off Watt. Vasconcelos comes on. That's enough for Hill in her Chicago Red Star debut. And Nagasato, the leading assist getter in the league a year ago, checks out as well. And so we're going to see some significant changes to that front line that I think everyone had their eyes on from the outset here.
Yeah, we have, and we knew coming in there was going to be quite a few changes. Still looking for those partnerships, and this won't be the only game where we see a massive changes up top. Bringing in Duniak, number 15, that will give this front line a little bit of different look. She'll look to make some more of those penetrating runs that we haven't seen from a front runner besides Watt out on the wing in this game.
Duniak comes from Utah. Played last year for Royals FC. 11 appearances, just 1 goal. A former draft pick of the Western New York Flash. Missed 2018 with a knee injury. Hopes to make an impact here. An area she's become quite familiar. Sullivan pulled down.
These are the moments when the Washington Spirit, just looking at this game, 15+ minutes to play, you've made 4 out of your 5 subs already. And can you have a player like Andi Sullivan get her foot on the ball, start to keep possession even more, really take the wind out of the sails of this Chicago team?
Ball played through, can Hatch latch on? Couldn't. Into the penalty area and picked up here. So Chicago looks to move quickly. Quarter of an hour to play. Perhaps a logical moment for a pause. Time running down for Chicago to make their comeback, or can this young Washington Spirit team get off to the perfect beginning at the NWSL Challenge Cup? As you're watching the NWSL on CBS Sports. Let's take a look at how this second half has unfolded.
And if we thought the first half was a quality start by the Washington Spirit, this is even better. Alyssa Nair can't get this ball out from underneath her foot, allows Ashley Hatch to pounce on it, make the most of it. Just places this one into the back of the net fantastic job from Ashley Hatch. We knew coming in, her energy, her ability to score goals. We haven't seen that as of late, but has been the front runner in this game. Really gotten this team off to a fantastic start in this first game.
And let's take a look at the secret virtual watch party powered by Google Meet. A lot of smiles there. Spirit fans have something to cheer for. A 2-goal lead onto the 51st minute. Maybe a little wind out of the sails at this point as formerly Morgan Bryant grabs her first goal with a new name.
We talked about more numbers getting into the box, in and around the ball for the Chicago Red Stars, and this one takes a fortuitous bounce for Morgan Bryant to keep all those other players that were offside. Allows her to make the most of it, and that's a perfectly placed goal, just low, far post. Bledsoe almost makes the save, gets a touch on it. Driven hard into that corner. Pulls them close, at least cuts the lead in half.
Galtrol and Chicago looking to get on the comeback trail. Into the 79th minute in Utah in the 2020 NWSL Challenge Cup. The Washington Spirit raced out to an early lead and expanded it early in the second half. They're looking now for a third. Racing on, Sanchez. Sanchez continues. Now she shoots, it's blocked. Could have been the first professional goal of her career. At the hydration break, Kaylee Watt out. And you and I were talking a little bit about Katie Johnson. We feel like she is so vastly underrated.
And she's going to give a different look, a lot like Mackenzie Duniak coming into this game. She's going to be able to make those runs in behind, see if they can open up space, quick counterattacks on Washington these next 15 minutes or so.
DiBernardo has come out, the dead ball specialist for Chicago. In comes Savannah McCaskill. Set piece here, bounds in front, all the way across. Chicago dodges a bullet. Feist, player all the way at the back post. Sullivan back on her feet as well, gave a diving effort. Bledsoe called into the national team camp back in January. That got all the way through, but beyond Vasconcelos. Lori, to someone like me who hasn't played 90 competitive minutes of soccer in his life, how would you describe playing 90 minutes for the first time in, call it 6-7 months, particularly at altitude? I imagine that is unflattering, to say the least.
It is such a challenge, and credit to all these players that are putting in minutes, because there's nothing actually like the game of soccer. You can do your fitness, you can play inter-squad, but it's not until the emotions are high, the games matter that add to all the elements of making it even more exhausting. And not to mention that 90 minutes in this league, with how competitive it is, how high the level is already tiring. Add a condensed preseason, and as you mentioned, not playing very many games in the last 3 to 8 months. Just adds to it.
Haskell continues to provide pressure, and with that, she's helped Chicago win the ball back. And all the way down to the end line they go. Center toward Doniak, leads now to a corner for the Red Stars. They have not won an opener in the league since 2015. At this point, they'd love even a draw. Johnson. Somehow out to St. George. That tackle off the mark from Hellstrom.
And I like that eagerness by Hellstrom to get out there and shut her down, but you've got her going in line. You don't need to make the tackle there. Just keep her on her feet, force her down the line, make it predictable for yourself and your teammates. Instead, you give up a dangerous free kick.
McCaskill. Bledsoe able to all the way out and punch it away. Just beyond McCaskill on the second effort.
The right idea by Chicago to continue to look to find that width. The missing piece in this game for Chicago has just been that final pass, that final decision to connect, to make it difficult for the Washington Spirit defensively.
Vasconcelos. Short pushing forward. For Chicago, mentally, is your first thought it'll come with more time? Or having lost a player who scored nearly half of your goals, is there any doubt there that it's going to come? Because they've done this before without Sam Kerr, but that was several years ago.
With the leadership group that they have on this team, there's no doubt this team will continue to fight, will continue to find ways to solve issues. And they know, Rory Dame has said it and made it public that they're coming in here to look to develop players, find the combinations. And not only in the attack, right, in the back as well. And so how can they find the best group? And that's what they're coming in here for. So it's important to remember that these players, and why building from your draft is so important, because you believe in your players, you know what they can do, and there's a buy-in to the philosophy.
Beltrol out. And Danielle Colaprico comes on. Meanwhile, Collins comes in for Hatch, and so both of our second half goal scorers have left the match. McCaskill. It's a one hopper that's simple enough for Bledsoe with 4 minutes and stoppage time to go. Another one could ice this for the Spirit. Collins versus Chicago retreats all the way into the corner. Sanchez can't catch up. Forward by McCaskill, and now Ertz. Sullivan. St. George for Chicago. Advantage played for the Red Stars. The back heel didn't come off to Doniak. Action continues on Tuesday. This opening Saturday featured a game winner in the 4th minute of stoppage time, leading North Carolina over Portland. Now Washington and Chicago playing in a nail-biter in the nightcap. Sanchez running at the Chicago back line. Able to slip this through. Second ball back along. This one cleared by Morse.
Right idea to play that ball from Sanchez. Good initial run from Washington and open up that space.
McCaskill just enough to lead on Ertz. Able to play it back. Johnson able to get it ahead now. St. George! Bledsoe there.
It's a fantastic stop by Bledsoe.
St. George again continuing to get forward. McCaskill awaits the pass from Johnson. Combining with Colaprico. Katie Johnson. Enough air on that to get over McCaskill.
And Chicago continues to find space and exploit Washington Spirit when they draw those outside backs out and find the width.
And what a moment this is for Aubrey Bledsoe, maybe holding on to those 2 points.
You see Helsham trying to make that tracking run, knows she's caught out, allowing the Red Stars to get an open shot, but fantastic save by Bledsoe, making sure that she stays big, covers that near post. St. George could have done better, keeping that low on the ground.
6 minutes of added time. Run coming out of midfield. This falls for Sanchez, who cuts inside, ultimately lost her footing. McCaskill wings it forward. Doherty Howard helping to calm things down in the Spirit midfield. What a luxury to have a player like Maggie Doherty Howard in the middle of your midfield when you're up a goal late in the game.
A player that can calm the game down, just finds little pockets of space to keep possession. And that's what you want from the Washington Spirit right now. Know they're up 2-1, close out the game, making sure that players stay healthy these last 6 minutes. Keep possession, build out of the back, but don't cause any issues in terms of playing into danger. Realize when you just need to alleviate pressure, but also can still break down Chicago through your passes.
DiBiase slid it further. Now up toward the end line. Ball crossed. Nair somehow lifts that over. Denying Avery Collins of her first professional goal.
This is a perfectly timed run by Collins. Just floats in, and then at the last minute gets herself in front of her defender, redirects that one. Alyssa Nair all over, able just to deflect that over the bar. But it's that movement from Collins to separate herself just by a few inches to get to that ball first.
Plenty of contact, and with that, maybe Chicago can exploit some space here. We're in midway point of stoppage time. The counter broke down, and now Washington pushes back. DiBiase.
I've been impressed by DiBiase, her work rate on both sides of the ball. One of the knocks on her last season, Mike, was she up to the task in terms of defensive presence and helping out her teammates in the midfield. But so far in this game, both sides of the ball, getting behind, making it predictable for the players behind her, and then making runs out of the midfield that have been dangerous and caused issues for Chicago. Linked up really nicely with Hatch and Rose Lavelle when they were in the game. And that's that second year maturity for a lot of these players, getting 1 year under your belt, really understanding what this league is like.
Short. A bit long. And that's the growth curve that I think most people think Washington could have. There was the article or two out there saying, outside of North Carolina, could Washington be the most talented team in this tournament? Before you scoff, look at how high these draft picks were when they came in. And they did finish 4 points out of a playoff spot. Are they the next team to make the jump?
Still too early to say, but after tonight's performance, very quality performance. You can tell that they've bought into what Coach Richie Burke is trying to do, the philosophy, a possession-oriented team. But once they get into the final third, allowing them to work their magic and just unleash them and those attacking players to be able to do what they do best. Something he felt last year they were missing, felt too little restricted into the attack. But tonight we've seen those players really come alive.
Certainly there are teams with more well-known star power, but potential, which is impossible to truly project and predict with certainty. Certainly on Washington's side. And the Spirit able to defend again here in the final minute of stoppage time. Washington led by 2, less than a minute into the second half. Chicago pulled one back. Washington takes possession midfield. And now Chicago with one final chance. Ertz. Throw for Chicago. Gone beyond the 6 minutes. Turning into the box, Johnson. The referee blows for full time. Washington Spirit exactly the start they were hoping for. 2-1 win over the Chicago Red Stars.
Coming into this game for the Washington Spirit, talked about a winning mentality, wanting to win this tournament. Got right up on the front foot. And first games can be important in these types of tournaments to create that momentum going forward. And that's exactly what the Washington Spirit put on display tonight.
Ashley Hatch with the game winner. Washington over Chicago in both teams' first game in the Challenge Cup. Presented by P&G and Secret. Washington Spirit over Chicago in the NWSL Challenge Cup. Fireworks galore in Utah. Speaking of fireworks, Rose Lavelle with the opening goal of this one, standing by with Marissa Pilla.
Rose, you opened up scoring tonight in the 8th minute. How were you able to open up Chicago's defense so early on?
I don't know. I think we kind of saw the opportunity to press. We wanted to sit back a little and read the trigger, and that's what we did. Hatchie made a great run, and I just picked up on the rebound.
How important was it also to exploit those half spaces between Chicago center backs?
Yeah, definitely. I think Hatchie did a great job getting in behind. She put in a lot of hard work and runs, and yeah, we love finding her there.
It was great to see you out on the field. Thanks for your time.
Thank you.
Rose Lavelle and Washington Spirit grab a 2-1 win over Chicago, and Richie Burke with a team talk as his side joins North Carolina atop the standings. More coming after this on CBS Sports. Welcome back to the NWSL Challenge Cup presented by P&G and Secret. Post-game smiles for the Spirit as they knock off the Red Stars in both teams' first game, 2-1. Time for today's Secret no sweat play of the game. Let's go back to the 8th minute.
Well, the Washington Spirit wanted to get off on the front foot, and they did just that. And two players you want to be making an impact are Ashley Hatch and Rose Lavelle. They combined for this goal. The initial save by Alyssa Nair to deny Ashley Hatch, but then the follow-up with Rose Lavelle. Unbelievable, just times her run, and then is the first one to pounce on this to skyrocket that into the top of the net.
So it is a big win for Washington Spirit. Early on, tears and a moment in history. And in the end, the Spirit knock off the Red Stars. For Lori Lindsay, Marissa Pilla, and our entire crew, Mike Watts. For more NWSL highlights and analysis, CBS Sports HQ has you covered. This has been a presentation of CBS Sports Network, 24-hour home of CBS Sports.
And our viewers from the game coverage from CBS All Access, thanks for joining us here on CBS Sports HQ. I'm Sherry Burris. And what a game it was between the Chicago Red Stars and Washington Spirit. Let's take a look at how this game played out on Saturday night. Washington Spirit and Chicago Red Stars on CBS All Access. This was the second NWSL Challenge Cup match of the day. 8th minute, Rose Lavelle takes it up the field, threads the needle to Ashley Hatch. Alyssa Nair makes the diving save. Lavelle, though, fires in the rebound chance. The Spirit up 1-0. Lavelle, one of several players from the U.S. national team featured in this matchup. 46th minute, Spirit send it up. Nair, though, turning it over right in front of the net. Hatch able to put this one home. Spirit now up 2-0 and looking good. The Spirit looked primed to pull off the upset. But you know what? The Red Stars don't back down. 51st minute, Vanessa DeBarno pass goes to the defender in front, and Morgan Dutroux fires in the goal. Red Stars down 2-1. And hey, look, they're right back in this one. So in the 89th minute, Red Stars looking to even it up on the free kick. Bianca St. George with an open chance in front, but Aubrey Bledsoe makes the huge save to keep the Red Stars off the board. Washington Spirit go on to win 2-1. And here you have it, the final 2-1 Washington Spirit over the Chicago Red Stars. You have goals coming from Rose Lavelle, Ashley Hatch, and Morgan Bryan in this one. An exciting tournament so far, just game 2. Can't wait to see what we have in store. All right, joining us now are soccer experts Sandra Herrera and Thomas Rongen. Guys, this really was a thrilling match and overall an exciting day of soccer. Thomas, get us started. What are your biggest takeaways in this match?
Well, you know what? Life has changed, but the North Carolina Courage, the two-time defending champions, coming back from being down 1-0 and finding a way in stoppage time to win that game 2-1 in the opener on CBS. And what a game it was. Up and down, great goalkeeping, and obviously some of the U.S. women's national team players very much involved, including Lewis, who was very quiet but gets the assist on the winning goal. Fast forward to the last game, same thing. Maybe the difference at the end of the day is the goalkeeping. And by the way, Ashley Nair is the starter in the last World Cup for the U.S. women's national team. But clearly today, Aubrey Bledsoe, the goalkeeper for the Spirit, outshone her and might take over the throne to become the starting goalkeeper for the U.S. national team. And the Spirit, by the way, the youngest team in the field, with Rookie Sanchez, the 4th pick up there. Hatch is young, and Rush Lavelle is just an absolute animal in midfield. Small, but she can cut and carve you up, and she was absolutely brilliant by putting the Spirit up 1-0.
That just put a bow on all of it. Sandra, what did you like most about the match we just saw?
I think we saw the truth. We saw that the Washington Spirit came here to compete. They're building off of a season where they started to put together some results, and they're building on that this year. So I had them as one of my teams to watch out for, finishing within sort of the power rankings, if they're the top 4 there. And I feel like they're just going to continue to excel in this tournament. I think coming today with a big win over the Chicago Red Stars, a team that they match up very well against in the past, and then sort of getting over that hump and getting that win against a team like that, an experienced team, is going to serve them well for the duration of the tournament.
Earlier on Saturday, the reigning 2-time champions North Carolina Courage defeated Portland Thorn FC 2-1. Sandra, 2 games. What are your impressions overall of the tournament so far, and give us some of your takeaways?
I believe the North Carolina Courage are as advertised. You know, they came into this tournament highly rated, pretty much the favorites to run away with the tournament. Other than some of the World Cup players on other rosters, this is the only actual club team that has had experience within a sort of tournament-style format type of play within a season. They're reigning ICC champions, and they have experience being able to go through sort of a round-robin style, tournament-style type of season, so to speak, to push them forward. That's my biggest takeaway out of this right now, that they are as advertised, and that the Spirit, I really do believe that they're going to compete for, you know, the silverware that the Courage are eyeing as well.
Thomas, this was just sort of an appetizer of what's to come for this upcoming month. Give it to me here. What do you see as the following dishes here? What kind of tournament are we going to have?
Well, based on both games, and I'm looking at it from a coaching perspective, substitutions, and they can use 5 in this tournament. FIFA has approved that, and substitutes made a difference in this game. Carly Rocado comes in the second half, is involved in 2 goals for the Courage. You got obviously Simone Charlie that scores the lone goal as well, coming off the bench, making a difference for her team. So that's very important. Depth of a team and game management of coaches is very important as well. And then the U.S. women's national team players making a huge difference and will continue to make a huge difference with the Houston Dash, Oil Rain, obviously coming up, Sky Blue. We got some great players, both domestic and internationally, that are being showcased on CBS almost each and every day. It's just been a glorious start of this tournament, and it will continue as well.
This tees me up perfectly. Let's look ahead to the upcoming schedule. Tuesday afternoon, the Houston Dash and Utah Royals play in their first games of the tournament. Utah Royals get back in their home stadium for the first time in nearly 8 months. Sandra, who do you see having the edge in this game?
I'm going to be going with Utah Royals FC solely for the fact that they're playing host to this tournament. So their team, their club, their staff, their players have all been acclimated to sort of what's going on in Utah as of right now concerning the pandemic. And they're just outright acclimated to that altitude. That's not something that they have to necessarily prepare for. So I'm giving them the slight edge over Houston in this match.
Thomas, are you going with Sandra here, taking Utah?
Yeah, I will. Listen, I coached the U.S. Olympic team, and we used to go to Utah to do high-altitude training if we have to play in Mexico City, for instance. And it takes weeks to get used to your environment and the climate, so to speak. So that gives the home team clearly an advantage. And also, I like the number 8 pick in the 2020 draft, King, 48 goals for NC State. That's a player to watch, a young player to watch. I picked the Royals over the Dash tomorrow as well.
Well, on Tuesday night, Reign FC take on Sky Blue FC. Sky Blue FC looking to bounce back from a disappointing finish in 2019, and that's going to be a tough task against Reign FC. They're a team with a brand new coach, 6 new players, though they have previous professional experience. How do you see this game going, Thomas?
I mean, Sky Blue, 6 consecutive years now, and the league is only 8 years old, by the way, have not made it into the playoffs. And they're missing some players. We all know about Carly Lloyd's injury and some other U.S. national teams players not being there. So that's going to be a very tough task for them in this particular play. Although Purse is like absolutely on fire. She's 24 years old. She's the most exciting player on this active roster right now. She locked in 8 goals and a few assists for the Thorn last year. So I expect her to do really well.
All right, Sandra, your turn. Who do you see coming out on top Tuesday night?
I think it's going to be OL Reign that walk away with the victory on this day. I think there's a huge opportunity for a team like Sky Blue to utilize this tournament, similarly to how some other teams are using it for experience for their younger players and younger names and new faces. But OL Reign are going to have some new faces of their own. They went out and they made a couple acquisitions like Sofia Huerta to add on to their roster, and I'm looking forward to a good game from her. And they also have Alana Cook, so that's huge for them moving forward.
Tuesday night's going to be another great day of soccer. Thank you, Sandra Herrera and Thomas Rongen. Appreciate your insight. All right, again, here's a look at Tuesday's upcoming schedule for the NWSL Challenge Cup. First, at 12:15, our pregame coverage leading up to the 12:30 Eastern Houston Dash against Utah Royals FC. Then later that night, 9:45, our pregame before OL Reign takes on Sky Blue FC. All right, that does it for our postgame of the NWSL Challenge Cup. We have much more CBS Sports HQ coming your way next.